Welcome back to the Racing Writers Podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Kelly Crandall. I hope you all have been enjoying the holidays. We're getting ready for the new year, so let me say in advance, a happy and safe new year. So we're doing this thing again. Here we are. I think we're at, episode 11 or 12, somewhere around there. We keep rolling on and getting through this off season. So I have an episode for you today that's a flashback episode. It's not new. This was recorded back in the spring, in fact, at Bristol Motor Speedway back in April. Myself and Joey Logano sat down for what was supposed to be a quick 10, maybe 15-minute interview to look ahead to his 300th NASCAR Cup Series start that he was going to make the following week at Richmond, and instead it turned into a 25-minute, 30-minute open book session where Joey went into depth about pretty much growing up in the sport and in front of all of the fans and everybody in the garage as he came in as an 18-year-old at Joe Gibbs Racing, and now we see him flourishing at Team Penske and contending for championships and wins year in and year out. So the reason I love this interview so much is because as an interviewer, you always love when your subject gives you more than you think you're going to get or really is open and honest. And what you're going to hear in this interview is Joey talk about the struggles at Joe Gibbs Racing. He opens up about the mistakes that he's made and being under the microscope because, again, he was growing up in front of everyone, and you're going to hear him say something that I found quite funny, which was, my mistakes were blasted all over the TV. So Joey's very honest about that. He was a really good sport. We talked again for about 25 minutes, and he just was so much fun to really just let him talk. And you'll hear me ask a few questions, but I really just let Joey go on and on and on because, again, when you get into this groove where you feel like your subject is being really open and honest, you don't want to cut away from that. So we went again for a period of time that Team Penske just kept let us go. You'll hear towards the end where I had to reach over and look and make sure that I could get one more question in because, again, Joey and I had gone longer than I had requested. So I appreciate Team Penske for that. So as I mentioned a few weeks ago, I wanted to air this interview because it is one of those that I think comes across very well in audio form. And again, that's what the goal of this podcast is. So that's coming up here in a few minutes. Again, let me take time to thank, as always, all the ratings and reviews. This continues to be a very fun venture. And this is a post-Christmas episode for all of you who are celebrating Christmas. I hope you've had a lot of fun. Santa was very kind to you. If you got any racing-related Christmas presents, feel free to tweet me at Kelly Crandall. I love to hear and see what everybody gets every year. I remember when I was younger and I first started getting into the sport, die-cast race cars and even tickets to my first race was a Christmas present for me. So if you got any fun racing gifts that you want to share, send them my way on Twitter. I love to see the excitement of whether it's newer fans or die-hard fans. The excitement of getting something cool every year is really nice. And going into 2018, there's certainly a lot of new merchandise out there as drivers change teams and numbers. So I'm excited to see that. And for anybody who listens and knows that I love wrestling, send me some of your wrestling presents you got as well. In fact, the other day somebody sent me some pictures of a live show that they were at. I believe it was in Detroit. So it's always cool to see that. So let me know what you got. Let me see what you got. I enjoy that. My dogs are here in the background. As you can see, they're very excited about Christmas, playing with their toys that they got. So the Crandall dogs making an appearance on the podcast. You never know what's going to happen. So I think I've rambled on for enough this week. Again, I just wanted to say happy holidays. I hope everybody has enjoyed it. One more thing about the interview with Joey Logano. This was not edited. I did not touch this at all because, again, it's very raw, it's very real. You're going to hear him contemplating what he says. You're going to hear him really think deep into his memory of how he was feeling and what was going on during certain points in his career. So I didn't want to touch it. You'll hear all the ums and the dead air, and you're going to hear us laugh and things like that. So this is exactly as it happened back earlier this year at Bristol Motor Speedway. So once again, appreciate everybody as we get through this off season. We probably will not have an episode next week. I know I keep throwing you guys for a loop of when I do and don't have episodes, but again, it's really just what I can pull up here that I've got stacked away. So, I tell you it may not be an episode. I could be wrong. I may throw up Eric Jones next week. That is coming, I promise, as well as Pat Suey from Chevrolet. I've still got in the can. And then pretty soon, it's going to be media tour time. We're going to start using the word excited to talk about 2018. And before you know it, And I say this as I sit in about, 20 degrees here in New Jersey as I visit my family. I cannot wait to be in sunny, warm Florida for Speed Week. So let's get to the show. Again, this is Joey Logano from earlier this year as we looked back on his career and his 299 starts and getting to 300 in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. Once again, thank you to Team Penske and everybody, you guys, for listening. Here is this week's episode of the Racing Writers Podcast. I guess to me, maybe to you as well, you started so young, it kind of feels like you've been away, almost been around forever. I mean, 300 starts doesn't seem that long, does it?
It doesn't. I feel like I've been around for a while now. I mean, what's it, my ninth season, right? Nine? Yep. So, I mean, it feels like a long time, but at the same time, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, it's just... sometimes in life, sometimes you go through something, it's like, wow, that went by so quick, but then when you think about it for a while, it's like, oh, not really. You went through a lot of different things, and you end up not remembering a lot of the races. I mean, reaching 300 starts is a cool stat, only because I'm 26 years old.
Yeah.
There's plenty of other drivers out there that have over 500 starts. That's an amazing milestone. But I think being able to do it at my age is what makes this kind of a neat thing. And to think about, hey, in another 10 years, another 9 years, I'm still not that old, and I'm at 600. And that's when it kind of gets into perspective to me, like, holy moly, I could be racing a lot of races here. Because I'm, like I said, being 26 years old, you can race for a long time in this sport. So, not saying I'm only racing 9 more years, but I'm just saying that, to double it, that's it. Yeah, it's not very far away. Which that's really cool. That's cool to hear about. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but that was it.
Do you, are there certain moments, either on the racetrack or off the racetrack, that you think about when you do maybe reflect a little bit?
Yes. I guess I immediately think about the beginning of my Cup career, and the struggles that I went through, and the lost feeling that I had a lot of times of not really knowing what to do, and the kind of that panic feeling that you're about to lose your job and all that. It's a bad feeling. It's a feeling I don't ever want to have again. So it motivates me. To this day, I still think of that. To this day, I'm grateful for how we can run on every weekend. But I am because of the struggle we went through, and I think that's what made me who I am today. It's made me, the man that I am on the track and off the track, and the decisions I make are because of experience and the people that I have around me now. And without what you've done in the past, and this is true for everybody, right? It's not just I'm talking about myself, but it's true for everyone. It's true for you too. If you think back 9 years ago, and if you didn't learn the lessons that you've learned, and I'm sure you went through struggles doing something at some point, and if you didn't go through that, you're not standing here today, or you didn't learn that lesson. So there's no regrets, because I've been able to learn from my mistakes to where I've actually kind of am grateful for the mistakes that I've made.
Right. So if I remember correctly, your first start was New Hampshire. It was supposed to be, I think, Richmond.
Yes.
And then the rain.
You're right,
so it's kind of ironic.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's pretty good. You remember that.
So it's kind of ironic that 300 now comes at Richmond. But going back to the first start, it was New Hampshire. Huh. What do you remember either leading up to
Richmond?
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Yeah. So the actual start. What do you remember leading up to that, or do you remember anything particular from that race?
I remember a lot from Richmond. I don't remember as much from Loudon besides the actual race itself.
Yeah.
I don't remember much leading up to it, and I remember being nervous before the race. Actually, I remember being a driver intros, being pretty nervous that I'm racing with the big boys, so it's kind of cool. But I was pretty nervous about it. And we just ran awful. That's what I remember. Just nothing went well. It was just slow, and I'll take full credit for that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was a mess. I didn't know what to do, and the one thing about that is weird because, you know, Loudon, like you said, is my first win and first start and all that, but that is, to this day, probably the most challenging racetrack for me as a driver to get my head wrapped around.
Okay.
And that happened to be my first race that we ran so bad. I was like, we couldn't pick the worst racetrack to have your first race.
Right.
But who'd have known then, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you think, hey, cool, it happens to be my home track. I was kind of excited about that and how neat that was going to be. But it was going much better at Richmond, because we went there and we practiced and we were like third on the board in race trim. We went to qualifying trim. We stayed third on the board. Like, we were fast.
Yep, I do remember that.
And I remember going through my mind saying, I got this. Like, I remember saying, like, shoot, these cars they're not as hard as everyone says they are to drive.
Right. We
got this figured out. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to win right out of the gates on this thing. Just like I did in my Xfinity car when I first jumped into that. And then Loudon was the first slap in the face for me. That was the first wake-up call.
Reality.
Yeah, oh man, God brought me right back. Right back to reality, quick.
What about, so a year later, what about the first win? Does anything still stick out about that day? Either just how the race played out, or maybe how it was received, or what it did for you, maybe?
I remember the race itself, that we weren't running stellar. We were better than the first time we were there, which was good. We were making progress. I had a flat left rear tire. I spun out trying to get to pit road, which drew the caution. We pitted. A lot of cars were staying out at that point because it wasn't too long after a restart. And then there's a long green flag run after that, and weather was coming. So no one wanted the green flag cycle, but they got to the point that everyone was running out of gas. So they were pitting, but I had 15 or so laps in my tank, more than they had. So we just stayed out, and it started raining. You know, watching the race, it started raining, and boom, we won the race. And we were not a car capable of winning that race without a circumstance like that. And I remember just, you know, a lot of people kind of said, oh, you know, it's a luck wind, and maybe they're right. But maybe not. I feel like since then I've probably lost 10 races that way, where I've actually had the winning car and it rained at the wrong time and you've lost that way. So at this point I really defend that win, because I feel like I've lost enough to deserve that one that I actually got. So I'll take it. I don't care what everybody says.
Right.
We're taking it. And I remember there was a lot of talk afterwards and things like that. I remember Jeff Gordon saying, how many lucky dogs did he get today? I remember that, because I got like maybe 2 or 3 lucky dogs in that race.
Yeah, I believe you had spun out, and because of I think it was what, left rear. The
left rear tire, yeah. So I think I probably had 2 or 3 lucky dogs that race.
Yeah.
And then Jeff finished second, and I remember him saying that on the radio.
Yeah.
It just
he kind of couldn't believe it.
I'd be pissed too if I was him.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
No, of course not. That's funny how you say you defend that. That's pretty good. So what is it like when it starts to develop that Roger Penske is interested in you, and all of a sudden you might be making a really big career change? Well, not career change, but team change.
Yeah, I mean, it was something that was in the works for quite some time. You know, in all honesty, it started a year before I even ended up here, and the rumors were that, you know, Carl was coming over or Matt was coming over. I was losing my job. I mean, the rumors were around for a long time. I mean, for 3 years, it was talked about a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's the only smart play for me is to be heads up and be ready to make a change. And I remember talking to Walt a few times about it, and, you know, I've talked with Roger, and Brad and I had a good relationship, and we tried to make it happen the year before. My deal was over at Gibbs to try to the writing was on the wall. It was going to happen. Which at that point there was no fit to replace me at Gibbs, so it was kind of like, okay, we got to, you know, about another year, and it's the time Penske had to make a play and put somebody in the 22, so they put AJ in. And at that point Penske was not an option. because of the terms that they had with AJ, that I wasn't going to get to drive the 22 car. And then obviously we all know what happened.
Yep.
That seat opened back up, and at the right time, because I had nothing.
Yeah.
I had an Xfinity ride. That was it on the plate. So that was the plan.
I don't mean to cut you off, but what is that like all of a sudden when that comes back up of your name and Roger Penske and Team Penske Racing in kind of the same sentence? That's got to be almost like an unbelievable feeling.
Yeah, I mean it's. I don't really know how to put it into words besides it's I don't know, it's a God thing. I don't really know how else to say it. God has a plan sometimes for you, and you don't really know what it's going to be. Because the writing was on the wall that I was going to lose my job at Gibbs, but there was also the writing on the wall that you weren't going to get another job anywhere else driving a Cup car. And a lot of times when you go back a level, it's 3 times as hard to come back in because you're kind of already made a name for yourself, and not in a good way. I got a second chance, and I said, okay, I'm going to, this is amazing. For one, you don't even know what to say about it.
Yeah.
But you're able to walk into the doors as a 21 or 22-year-old. I was 22 maybe.
22, Jeremy.
And not a 15-year-old like I did at Gibbs. And I had experience under my belt, and I was ready for it. And I was ready to attack and make it happen because my back was against the wall. There's no excuses anymore. You can't use age as an excuse. You can't use experience as an excuse. You got 3-4 years under your belt. You got to produce. And knowing Roger Penske, obviously he told me right off the bat he expects us to go out there and win, and we did. It took us the first year only won 1, but we ran fairly well, and then the next year was 4, 5, 6 wins after that, and then 4 last year. So it's been good since then. But I think to the point of when we first started talking about going through the struggles to make you who you are, if it wasn't for those moments, none of this happens today. So I think that's why I'm so grateful for the struggle.
So 290, this will be 299, so 288 starts to this point. I'm sure there's a lot in there you don't remember, but is there any race or any moment you would like to have back or do differently that does stand out?
Yeah, oh yeah. There's plenty of them. Yes. You want examples? Is that what you want?
If you have one, I don't need all of them, but if there's one that still sticks with you.
There's a few moves that just like, man, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have got into a crash. Or if I didn't do this, a speeding penalty on pit road when your car's fast. It's just like, like you're just shooting yourself in the foot. It's those moments, I guess you always stand out in your mind. The races that stand out in my mind is where I make the mistake more than anything. It's a team sport, so all of us make mistakes. It's just human nature, right? There's always that element in it, the human element, that there's something for mistakes. But I think when you personally make a mistake and you feel like you've let down your team, those are the worst ones for me, at least. That are tough, and usually speeding penalties. And I was Kansas to me a couple years ago. We had a really fast car, and I sped down pit road, and the next time I came down with pit road with the pits closed, it's like, where is my head? We had such a fast car. We kept driving back to the front. We still finished in the top 5, but it took a chance away to win. Which just, I guess those are the ones that those type of races set into your mind, saying, gosh, you expect every now and again to have some, pit road mistakes or a mechanical failure and stuff like that, and those ones you remember, but I don't get as mad about, because there's nothing I can do about it.
A few more things for you. Shifting away from the racetrack. Like I said, you started so young. It's almost like you've grown up in front of everybody, and now you're a married man. Do you mind talking about Brittany and kind of how life away from the racetrack has developed over the years? Yeah,
it's been great. It is true. I did kind of grow up in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Which I never really let affect me that much. I feel like I've kind of just always been myself and kind of a take it or leave it attitude, and be respectful and be who I am and don't be somebody else just because it pleases the fans or TV or whatever. I'm Joey, and that's it. I hope you like it.
Yeah.
If not, oh well. But I think to the point of just growing up, yeah, I mean, I grew up like everybody else does. I made a lot of mistakes on the racetrack, the way I handled a lot of situations, because I was growing up, right? I mean, you can't tell me that whoever's reading this article right now didn't make a mistake when you were 18 years old, right? They said my mistakes were blasted all over America. So, sorry. Sorry about that, but I'm pretty sure everyone else has done the same thing at some point and made a stupid decision. But I think now, and I still will make stupid decisions, just to point that out, but won't make the same one twice, at least. I'm getting better at that. My wife helps me a lot with that stuff, too. And that's one of the biggest things you say, like, kind of how married life and all that's kind of changed, but it just having someone to lean on and talk to, and she has a great perspective on life and being, obviously in tune with what I do, but also kind of being a little bit removed from the race team itself, and the racing side of it, and she can really help me on just how to handle situations with people, and we're very similar in ways, and in ways that we enjoy doing the same things. We can have a fun conversation, we joke around, we're not very serious all the time, but the way she handles a situation sometimes is a lot different than the way I would, and I think that's good because we can balance each other, and so sometimes sometimes I may be a lot tougher than her in a situation and have less patience, and sometimes she helps me with that. And there's other times that she has a lot less patience in something than I would, and I try to, we can talk about it and say, hey, here's how we should handle this, because conflict comes up, right? Yep. Just in general, it's life, not just between yourself and your wife, or but also with conflict with just people every day. There's when you're in a leadership position, you have to deal with people and handle conflict and problems. So it's nice just to come home and say, hey, what would you do in this situation? What do you think about this? And it just gives me a nice sounding board, and we can play off each other that way, which is nice.
You've developed a foundation along the way, which the numbers of just things it's been able to do and help and money that's been put forward is just astounding from what I looked at. And it seems like it kind of helps many different things across the board. You really didn't say we're going to do one thing. Can you just explain how that vision kind of came about?
So the foundation, it started 3 years ago or so, and really between Brittany and I, we felt like it's what we were supposed to do. And she, and this is what I give her the most credit for, is that she's got a way bigger heart than me, which is awesome, and I believe that's why God put her in my life, because she said it the best a few different times, but God's giving me an amazing platform to drive race cars, right? I could live out my dream, but what good is it if you don't do anything with it, right? What good is it if you just have trophies at the end of the day? Who cares, right? I mean, like, it's going to be forgotten about. The next generation, or maybe 2 generations from now, isn't going to know who won at Bristol in 2017. They're not going to care. Right. Do we care today, and is it still a big deal? Yes, I don't want to minimize that. But if you can, at the end of the day, say you've touched somebody's life, that's, I think, something that can really hold a legacy. It can really make you feel a lot better. It's a bigger win than any race you can win. So the ability I have by having I don't want to say celebrity because I think it sounds kind of weird, but having a platform that can reach a lot of people and talk to a lot of different people, and maybe touch some people's hearts to live a life of generosity, whether it's financials or just going out there and volunteering, doing things. If I can help somebody do that, it's great. If I can actually touch somebody who needs help, that's even better. And it would be wasteful if I didn't do that. And I think Brittany's taught me more about that than anyone else ever has. And so we've really enjoyed doing it. We've committed so much to this thing. It's work. Believe me, the foundation, it is a job for sure. It's not easy to do because you're not only controlling your own money that you put into it, but you're now controlling someone else's money that's donating to your foundation and trusting you that you're going to really make an impact with it. And that's a lot of responsibility. A lot of responsibility that I take personally and take seriously. I need to make the right decisions with that, and it's tough, you know. And Brittany helps a lot with that, and reading all the grant applications and visiting them and making sure that we take baby steps with these organizations before we move on. But we started a foundation, and we didn't really know exactly where our hearts were. We just know we wanted to help. We didn't know if it was, kids or adults or illnesses or what it was, but we just knew. I knew I had a second chance with Team Penske.
Right.
And I said, let's make it for second chances, and then we can keep it broad and we do anything.
Yeah.
So we left it like that for a couple years, just to kind of figure out, okay, where is our heart guided to the most? Like, we go to everything, we feel so bad and we just want to help everybody, but we really needed to focus in on one thing. So this year we've focused in on kids in crisis. So second chances as well, but for kids in crisis, which could be kids that have for lack of better words, bad families that have, kind of they're neglected or abused, or their parents might be truckies, I don't know, and you kind of get put into the system, right? And there's a lot of organizations out there that really help these kids and give them some good role models, give them the tools they need to be a contributing member of society, because talk about the writing on the wall for a lot of things. You can kind of see where their life's going to go if no one helps them, and it's not good. They're going to get put in bad situations, going to make the wrong decisions because they don't have anyone to lean on to help them and train them to make the right decisions. So there's a lot of organizations that do that. Unfortunately, a lot of them end at the age of 18. And I know when I was 18, I was in the limelight and I was making a lot of wrong decisions. And I had a lot of people to lean on.
Yeah.
So we focused on organizations that really go all the way up to the age of 24 to really help them with job applications and getting their GEDs and doing everything they have to do to get out there. So we really focus on that. We also do some things with kids with illnesses as well. We're starting actually this week. This is one of my favorite things we're just starting to do. So last year we went to Jake Letterman's funeral, and he was a kid that was just a race fan, and he unfortunately died of cancer of some sort. And we caught wind, the community caught wind that this happened, and we all showed up to his funeral. And I say we all, I showed up, a couple other drivers showed up, and a lot of the pit crews, there's over probably 100 people there, showed up to his funeral in fire suits. And we had a little race suit made for him and all this, and it was so touching that I thought, I remember sitting there in the funeral and watching it and in tears. I'm about to now, but I thought we missed an opportunity. We screwed up. Like, it's like, oh, it's great that we're here and the whole community there. It's great, but we screwed this up. Like, it's too late. So now we're finding these kids, and we're calling the jail kids crew, and we're bringing them to the racetrack. We're getting them to race the exact same race suit as the team's got, and we're gonna make them part of the team, make them feel normal, for a day, give them a cool experience. The kid's a big race fan, and he's got a life-threatening illness that it's something he's gonna have to deal with the rest of his life, or her life. It'd be so neat to just give him something special, and like I said, don't miss that opportunity again, because I feel like it was a mistake that we made. That we didn't do something as a community before that. So in honor of Jake, we're starting this, and the first one's this weekend.
Cool.
And then we're doing another one in Charlotte, and so it'd be a lot of fun, and one in New Hampshire as well. So we got 3 of them scheduled right now, and that's kind of the first thing that the Joey Logano Foundation is doing in-house. Like, I mean, we help out other organizations before, but now this is our baby, and this is something that we're really doing. So I'm super stoked about how it's going to go.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
That was a long answer for the foundation. I'm sorry, but
no, but that's
passionate
perfect.
about it.
Yeah, I mean that's perfect because it's detailed and it's more than just what people may think it is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Kyle, can I do one more, or we need to wrap up?
You can do one more. Yep.
Okay. The thing I wanted to end on, Joey, is, and I think it's kind of maybe a perfect segue after everything you just talked about between marriage and the foundation, is how have you think you've changed as both a person and a driver since the 298 starts ago?
Complete 180. I'd say when I first came into the sport, after the first 3 or 4 starts and I got my butt kicked so much, I had no confidence. I was not strong on what to do, didn't make decisions for myself, didn't know the next step. Now I've done a complete 180. I'm confident in the decisions I make. I'm willing to stand up for myself. The game's changed, and the results on the racetrack have changed because of that. The results didn't change me. I was able to change the results.
Yeah.
Which is great. And it's because I have a great support group around me, but I've learned from all my mistakes. And that's what's gone to a complete 180. So if all that can happen in 300 starts, I'm like stoked to see what's going to happen in another 300.
Yeah.
Do you keep that same progression over the next 300? If that's the case, I can't even wait. Like, I'm stoked about it.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the mistakes I'm going to make if that's the case. But who knows? You would think that the growth rate would be a little bit steeper and quicker when you first start, but who knows? You never know. So
that's a great way to end it. That's awesome.
Yep.
Thank you, Joey. I appreciate it. Thank you for giving me more time.